Welcome to another episode of Mr. Therapist and the Counselor Podcast, where we discuss mental health and recovery topics. And our goal is to demystify the process of therapy and demystify mental health professionals, because we're human too. And we do that through having honest, real, raw conversations that are funny and entertaining. My name is Manny Romero. Jesse O. We were just looking into each other's eyes as I was talking, Jesse.
That was deep.
Jesse O.
This week, we're going to talk about parental gaslighting.
Parental gaslighting. Remember to share the show. If you find some value, share with a friend, a family member, your mama, your daddy, and on your Instagram. And let's go.
What's up, dude?
How you doing, brother?
I'm here.
You're here?
I'm here What?
You're here?
I'm here, man.
You're here. Cool,
yeah,
man.
dude,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Cool, man.
Another great episode about to be recorded, filmed. My microphone is working.
Your microphone is barely working, dude.
Barely working?
Yeah.
Still?
No, it's working good. I hope it doesn't go. Jesse's mic might get staticky. It's just because he got so much fuego, so much fire. But
I got so much static.
Yeah, he's got the static. How you checking in, bro?
How am I checking in today? Good question.
I feel like I've asked you this today a couple times.
No,
Well,
first time.
never mind.
I thought about. There was a moment this week that I had a very challenging day this week. You ever just have like a rough day emotionally, mentally, and then like one thing could almost like it's almost a tipping point, like it almost pushes you over the edge.
Yes.
But you realize like to react is not always the best thing. And then by not reacting, things get better. But I had a moment this week.
Who hurt you, bro? Who hurt you? Who did it?
It was almost this moment. I walked out of I was getting something from PetSmart. And I walked right out the sliding glass doors. And somebody on like an e-bike was probably about maybe a foot away from like running into me. Like just I'd walk through the double doors. And it was a kid, like teenager. Just like boom, like reflect me, and like I played out in my mind. Like I remember looking at the dude as he kept going by. I was like, dude, if I would have like took another like a bigger step, and then I started to think about like what if I had my kid with me, like I was holding her, like you could have like you didn't even care.
Yeah.
And I played this whole scenario in my mind. Like I got very like intense in my mind where I was like, I'm gonna go drive and track this person down.
Yes. Beat him up.
I was like, well, I thought it'd be like, yeah. I was like, I grabbed this kid off his bike, and I'm like, you know what, like, and not, it didn't happen. I didn't have my daughter with me.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm the counselor.
No, but like, I mean,
That's mad. Yeah.
I guess that's youth, right? We don't really think about possible, like we're indestructible, right?
Yeah.
Or I was indestructible, and then you get older and you realize like everything's breaking on you, but. I just remember like that moment right there. I get those moments of like I just want to yell, I want to scream, maybe I want to cry. I'm not too sure what it was, but like it happened, it went away. I was still like I still was bothered throughout because of what happened to the day, but I found a way to get healthy. So I reflected on that right before this.
That's wild, man. Yeah.
But I'm checking in. I'm
glad that he did that.
Self.
I'm glad that he did that to a person who's working on themselves and self-aware. And not someone that gets driven by their impulses. Yeah.
That would have been bad news. Yeah. The old me.
Yeah,
The old me. Oh, man, that would have been problematic.
Yeah.
So I would have started running after the guy. Who knows what I would have done. But
GTA.
That's not me. How are you checking in?
I'm checking in okay. I'm reading this book called Collaborative Problem Solving. No, it's actually called The Explosive Child, but it talks about
wow.
Yeah, it was referred to me by a good friend. And
I don't refer you books or anything.
You're right. Sorry, you don't read books. I do got time to read books.
This guy's got so much
because
time.
You don't got time, you make time.
Oh gosh. Oh my god.
That's how billionaires think, dog.
All your idols think this way.
But the book is about a method called collaborative problem solving to help when you get that, like, do you ever, I don't know if you get this yet with your child, with your daughter, but like the sort of the pushback, the like sort of not listening to you.
A little
sort
bit.
Of like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
hard to take a no. The
Yeah.
disrespect.
Oh yeah. No, disrespect.
They
Just no.
throw that middle finger at you. Like,
no, not that
just
yet.
kidding. Dude, Mia started calling me bruh. She's like, calm down, bruh. I was like, the
really?
heck? Yeah.
Damn.
Anyway, so I'm reading it, and it's sort of making me think about just different ways. Like, and so the book premise, the premise of the book talks about how we have to step away from telling our kids what to do because we're the authority, which I really kind of draw to.
Okay.
And instead, sort of bring them in to solve the problem with us, right? So like help them find some solutions to.
Again?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you're back. Help them find some solutions to the issue that's going on. So it has a bunch of steps. I guarantee. I recommend people read it. It's called The Explosive Child. If you're having struggles with that power struggle with the kiddo, I think it'd be good.
Get more parenting ammunition.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Do you want to go? We can go right into the.
Let's get
let's talk about time sessions this week. Speaking of like the explosive child, right?
Yeah, right on point. Huh?
I wanted to talk about this week something I read online. Once again, something that like triggered like an idea. But we had an episode a while back, right? What was it? We talked about with the families. What was it? What were we gonna say? What was it called?
You talking about Jim?
Yeah.
We talked about
Jim Billion. We talked about
the emotionally mature parents.
Yeah. So, I mean, the you said to me at the door, you're like, you love gaslighting.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I mean,
You love that word, dog.
I told you I was more fascinated with the idea of
Someone needs to go back and check the episodes. How many times Jesse says gaslighting on this podcast?
Don't drink when you hear gaslighting. Okay? You'll be in treatment from me. But the idea of like gaslighting our kids, right? Parental gaslighting. I was like, and it was something we brought up with Jim when we talked about that. Just like fascinating with the idea of like how that starts at such a young age,
Right.
And I guess gaslighting to me a lot of times it was like a lot of times in relationships. I most definitely would gaslight people in past friendships, past relationship with significant others.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I guess I see my daughter and I'm like, she's so innocent. I'm like, there's no way I could do that.
Never do
I
that.
would
You
never
guys are
do that. I'm
bad
such a good
parents.
person. I'm not
You
a bad parent, but
you
like,
guys suck.
but like, so I don't know where you want to start. Like the idea, what is parental gaslighting, anyways? What does it mean? Is it just?
So you pulled up this article, and if I could just read some of the key points here.
Please do.
By Dr. Daniel Lobel. Wow, he is a doctor, unlike the last episode we had. But
why'd you have an issue with that guy?
I don't know. I think because you called him a doctor. I was like, don't say he's a doctor, dude. Let's get it right.
I one time sent an email to a program in India, and they thought I was Dr. J. I tell you about that.
Did you keep it or did you correct it?
I started to perform surgery only in India, though.
Dr. J, huh?
Dr. J. I was thinking Joker. Anyways, Dr. J.
I think I have Dr. Envy. I'm not a doctor. No, I'm kidding. So some of the key points.
Dr. Nerd right now.
Some of the key points of this article is so persistent parental gaslighting can damage a developing child. Gaslighting undermines a child's ability to trust themselves. So that's the impact. And then the result in insecurity, lack of confidence, underachievement, and overdependence on others can result from parental gaslighting. So I wanted to define gaslighting. We've done it a couple times, but we know that people come on the show.
First-time listener, maybe.
First-time listeners, yeah. So gaslighting is a form of lying where the person being lied to is made to feel crazy, stupid, or damaged for believing what is actually true. And so we give some examples. But have you experienced gaslighting?
I was gonna before that. Gaslighting too was based on a movie in the 1920s, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I remember reading about this. I've never seen the movie, but like, this guy was basically it was a gas lamp, I think, and he was like constantly turning it down or changing it, and telling his partner, like, a partner's like, that's like not something's going on with that, and he'd always be like, no, it's not,
Right.
like that idea of like not really like validating somebody, right? Kind of putting it on them. But yeah, that's gaslighting. Have I ever been gaslighted?
Yeah. Have you had this experience growing up? Like, because we're
Okay.
talking about children, the impact it has on children.
So I want to mention that. Here's the thing. I think I experienced a level of lying and manipulation for sure. And I'm not gonna say like I'm not gonna say that. Hey, like so. Let me say. I'll say that one more time. Like I grew up with probably lying and manipulating for sure. And I'm not saying like I can understand. I can even understand sometimes why the person lied. Never mind. I guess I'm validating somebody being dishonest here, but
I can understand it.
yeah.
You
I
don't
think
need to validate it, but
you know, but like so to that point, I think gaslighting is a very extreme type of level of lying, and that's why a lot of people throw out gaslighting. Is it's like it's a really like harsh term. It's kind of like narcissist to throw at somebody and go, damn, like that's really like putting me in a box here. But like, I don't think I experienced gaslighting growing up. I did, like I said, lying, manipulating, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, so broken promises, hell yeah, sign me up. But like, I don't think I experienced gaslighting. You
You
grew
don't
up,
think manipulating is like the same as gaslighting, though?
but is gaslighting like, gaslighting? I think is a lot of times is like tricking me into thinking something about myself.
Or denying something that happened because a parent wants to defend themselves, or like, and so yeah, you're wrong because you're the child.
Or how
Isn't
about
that
this?
a little
Like,
bit like
I
gaslighting?
guess maybe like it'd be manipulating and make somebody like seem like they're. I guess maybe that person in my life was manipulating a situation, but I don't think it was trying. I guess in some ways, I think it is different though,
Okay.
because I don't think it was like I don't think the attempt was on me.
Yeah.
It might have been about other people in
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
But like the person who was manipulating and lying, I don't think he was like trying to gaslight me. He wasn't trying to make me feel crazy. He wasn't
Okay.
trying to like not validate my feelings.
Okay.
I think he would cover up his shenanigans as much as possible, but
Okay.
I don't think he would ever I would not be the scapegoat for those lies.
Gotcha.
Wouldn't that be more gaslighting?
Yeah, possibly.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think like so I'm glad that you made the distinction between lying, manipulating, and gaslighting, and I think it's a spectrum, right? I think that like at the end of the spectrum, the far end, extreme end is gaslighting, and
Yeah.
maybe at the lower end of that, it's probably just like white lies or lying to defend yourself,
Yeah.
right? And so, so it is a spectrum, but you can get hurt from both, like
Of course, yeah.
like
yeah.
from just feeling invalidated by a parent, right? And I think gaslighting happens. We talked about before, emotionally immature parents, which really the characteristics of an emotionally immature parent is someone who has difficulty with emotional expression, struggles with setting and maintaining boundaries, and tending to seek validation from others in a fear of abandonment or rejection. Where do you think gaslighting comes from? Like a parent who gaslights, a parent who like has this does this with their kids. Like why do you think it happens?
Why do you think it happens?
And I want to go deeper than like they're a narcissist. Like
Oh yeah, no. Why would a parent gaslight their kid?
yeah.
I think it could be maybe their own insecurities.
Yeah.
I read like one statement on like maybe telling a kid they're being too sensitive, not validating like their experience. Maybe
which is different than gaslighting, right? But it's within the
but
spectrum.
But it's the idea of like let's say if like I'm trying to give it a good example like why you would tell somebody they're being too sensitive, but like I don't know if I went to somebody and was like, hey, you know, like my kid was like my puppy died, and like if I was just like, hey, this is life, just you know,
Right.
that probably wouldn't be gaslighting, right?
That's what I'm saying. So but it's still relevant to the topic because I think our listeners, there could be someone who experienced feeling invalidated by a parent,
Yeah.
right? Like because the parent didn't have room to talk about a person's experience or why they're feeling sad about something, and maybe they label them as dramatic, or they go like, you know, they invalidate them in some way.
See, that might be an emotionally immature parent then
Yeah.
more than anything. If somebody's like not validating you, maybe they just don't recognize like a sensitivity level. Because I mean, I know with working with clients that are up, 50s and up, like they grew up in a different generation.
Right.
They look at things a different way, and their kids, were treated a certain way, and a lot of, like I'm part of the generation who's starting to embrace this new like mental health movement,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be able to give that to my kid. And I also work in the field,
Right.
but there's a lot of people out there that like are really not exposed to that, and still
Yeah.
are kind of have the old upbringing like morals. So it's like the idea of like maybe some kids you're being too sensitive is probably still like a narrative that's practiced in a lot of different
Right.
families, a lot of different cultures. So yeah, so I don't gaslighting though to me would be like I said, the idea of just like kind of blaming your kid
Yeah.
in some ways.
I think it comes from trauma, though. Like,
yeah,
like
okay.
at the
You want
end
to
of
talk
the
on that a
day-
little bit?
Yeah, like I think like as someone who maybe has experienced trauma or has unprocessed trauma,
Yeah.
A lot of the things that you could be reacting to could be to protect your own self-image. It could be to avoid rejection, avoid looking like you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't have all the answers. And I think gaslighting can be a response to that, right? It's like making you look crazy so that I'm not in the wrong, right? And there's levels to that, but the very extreme severe cases, like have you heard of Munchausen by proxy? Like
We tell people what that
yeah,
is.
a
Yeah, I've heard of
parent
it,
who
yeah.
like makes their child sick to like take them to the hospital. Like that's
Yeah.
that is something that gets developed because of trauma. And
Yeah.
so like that's in a way that's gaslighting, right?
Yeah,
Like making
it
your
is,
kid
yeah.
look sick. But yeah, on the low end of that spectrum, like invalidating a child's feelings or and not holding space for a child's emotions, lying. It's like you said, not being emotionally mature enough
Right.
to say, hey, like I was wrong,
Yeah.
right, as a parent, which is hard to do. Like I don't know about you, but for me, it's hard sometimes to be like, oh, look, yeah, you're right, I was wrong about that.
Yeah, I haven't got there yet. I mean, I hope the best me is there, and I go,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna own up to my mistakes throughout this. So,
Yeah.
I guess gaslighting, like an example, would be like promising your kids something and then saying, I didn't promise not to do that, right?
Sure.
Like
yeah,
like the idea, like
that's
I don't know, let's say like, hey, yeah, I'll pay for your graduation, or I'll pay for your college if you do this,
Yeah.
and this, and then when it gets to the point, and you go, I've never said anything like that,
Right.
or like. That's like that. That's probably, but that's an extreme version. But that would be gaslighting,
Yeah.
and it's like at its fullest, right? Like
yeah.
I guess like that's why I kind of separate the idea of like lying and manipulating. Like, I was thinking like the idea of like saying I'm not going to pay for your college, and then if you get these type of grades, and then they get those good grades, and you're like, hey, guess what? Like I was never going to pay for your college, but you you got good grades, so
Yeah.
thank me for that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
There's no good. There's still the biggest lesson in all that, I think, is right. It's like manipulating and lying
And I
and
think
gaslighting.
And I think the biggest hurt you're giving someone at that point is like not like acknowledging that, like, I know I lied. I know, like,
Right.
I couldn't hold my end of the bargain here, right? Which is important, I think, for the person who was tricked to kind of receive, right?
Yeah.
It's I think it's super like important to go over if you are a child who has been gaslit in with your parent, or who you grew up as a child of an emotionally immature parent. Just the fact that this results in like feeling a lack of confidence, feeling an underachievement, and a need for being dependent on other people. How would you tell someone to heal? Like, how would you like walk through like healing through this? Like,
I was
think
looking for
about
more
it.
examples on this, like the thing that we're talking about here. Say that again. How would you?
Yeah, like the person listening to this who may be like, whether it's like, being gaslit on one extreme, or like just like not being very validated by your emotions growing up in your family, being lied to, being manipulated, like how can someone heal through this? Let's discuss that.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I get the professional part of me is like, you learn to trust again, or you maybe go seek out therapy. I think those are
Yeah.
things that are key. But when I think about like your mother and father are probably, they are the person, they are the they lay out like the roadmap of what life should be
Yeah.
and how you should treat other people. Like they're everything, right?
And you develop your self-image through them, through their eyes.
And I guess I kind of start to reflect on people that have like had parents that have like exposed them to some of the most like horrible things you could imagine. I think of this client who, their parents like sex trafficking. It's just like, how can you ever trust anybody ever again? I do this often. Like, I'm obviously not comparing like somebody manipulating you to like that extreme trauma, right? But like, it is still, once again, like your early development, child development. Like, if you have somebody that you trust so much or depend on so much, and they let you down, like the healing process, it takes a lot. There's a lot of time, and it's a lot of work. And I don't know. Sometimes I think about like my relationships with like specifically my father. Like there are things that I'm still working on to this day.
Wow.
Like there's still things inside me that are like, I don't say they're ingrained a little bit, and like they haven't completely gone. So and this is gonna take a lifetime. So back to your question, it does. It's like it's looking at the example that you were given and be like, hey, I wasn't given a good example of what a parent should be.
Yeah.
I wasn't treated fairly. I wasn't validated. And validating yourself and looking, maybe, I don't want to say looking for others to validate you, but also just like realizing, you're not alone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's this concept in therapy where, you're almost like having to reparent yourself because we live with like parts of ourselves that will take on the similar voice as the parental caregiver that brought us up. So if you had a parental caregiver that was invalidating, when you're an adult, you become that voice to invalidate yourself and your own experiences. So recognizing to distinguish when that voice comes up, with the origins of the voice kind of being like, this is how I learned to talk to myself because this is how my parents talked to me and handled me, and learning how to reparent yourself, like how to change the tone of that voice to a more compassionate and validating person for yourself. So it's do you see like do you understand when you go through stuff, do you understand things that way at all? Like where it's like there's a part of me that's being hard on myself, there's a part of me that's like being supportive of myself, like that relationship to yourself. Like do you ever do you conceptualize that? Like do you go through life thinking like, oh yeah, I have a relationship with myself? Or I do a lot of work around this, so I'm just kind of curious to know if other people recognize that there's like parts of ourselves that like influence how we feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like, do you mean just, and when you say ourselves, you mean just like everything that we've been throughout our life, and like you mean, like
like when you, like, for instance, like let's say like have you ever felt insecure, like he says I'm stupid, or like,
of course,
so that voice, like that, where does that come from? Like why did that part of you think that was stupid?
Is that kind of like that inner child kind of concept as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Right? The idea of like when something happens or like an abandonment issue I have, it's that inner child, that younger me, like, yes, that's reflecting on like, I react or respond this way because of what's inside there, right?
Right.
Okay,
yeah. So like being able to capture that for someone who's gone through this experience, right? Being able to understand this as like, okay, there is an inner child, or another part of me that I am constantly talking to and parenting in a certain type of way.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us who and I'll include myself in that, who grew up with parents, emotionally mature parents, like you tend to be more critical of yourself and more invalidating of yourself. And so we have to like capture that and catch that.
Yeah. When you say emotionally like immature parents, I guess I always think like I try to think of like there's like a certain age. I mean, it could be anybody though, and unfortunately a lot of it's like it's just passed down by generation. Like we're shown these things, then we become these things. Even though some people will break the cycle, like, but to where like I say like, and my example is like maybe I overcompensate on like the abandonment where I'm like I'm never gonna leave you, and then I almost feel like I'm falling into like a helicopter type of parent, right? So it's just. it's corrective action throughout this and
Sure.
learning. So, but at least seeing like the mistakes from my past and going, okay, like that didn't work. How can I apply something different, but also very healthy as well?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah,
No, yeah, I think if you are listening to this as a parent, and you're sort of identifying, man, sometimes I do these white lies, or sometimes I do manipulate, or sometimes I, I would even say sometimes I do empty promises, right? Like the college tuition thing, right? It's like, yeah, like, and I think the work starts at owning up to that, like learning to say I screwed up.
yeah,
I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect,
Right.
and I'm sorry about that. Right? That's the maturity, the emotional maturity of a parent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that inner child screaming right now. We got a couple minutes.
Like, you got a couple minutes. Let's wrap this up
Yeah.
then. Yeah, I want to invite you guys again to like to share with us if you have an experience like this. I feel like when we talk about these topics, sometimes they're so broad
Yeah.
that I want to make sure to invite questions, because we can really get a little more niched on like some of the ways that this might help you, because this is a platform for you after all, right? It's not so much about us hearing our voices, but it's about like finding a space to be able to help people who want more mental health, more recovery, and so just inviting for questions and reminding you to share the damn show, dog.
Yeah.
Share the show.
Always checking on your friends.
Let's go.
Got my name, tag it home today, I'm Jack. Greet you like I give a fuck, are you surprised by that?